Tell us a little bit about biblical archaeology. I know that you've dedicated so many years to uncovering the Bible through archaeology, and you're gonna blow our minds with what's coming next. So go ahead, take it away, Aaron.
Okay, don't forget to share my screen.
Absolutely.
Okay, I grew up in Jerusalem.
I just shared my screen. You confused me.
All right. I grew up in Jerusalem. My father is from the United States, Avi Lipkin. My mom is from Cairo, Egypt. I grew up in a traditional house. We were educated to believe in God and in the Bible. When I was 16 years old, my father came back from a visit to San Antonio, Texas. And this was the first time he visited an evangelical church. And he came to me when he came to Israel, and he said, "Aaron, you have to come with me. You have to see this." And I traveled with him to San Antonio, and that was the first time I went into a church and met Christians who truly, wholeheartedly love Israel and the Jewish people. And that basically was the start of a voyage that is going on until today. And thanks to Rabbi Tuly and Israel 365, we have a group of bridge builders, both Christians and Jews, that work together to strengthen this bond between brothers, between Jews and Christians. And so it's really a privilege to be here and to tell you about this magnificent biblical site that I grew to know in the last few years. And today it's probably my favorite biblical place in the land of Israel, a place that every time I go to, I feel God's presence. It's like this portal to heaven for me. And so I'm going to share that with you in the next.
It's on.
Next 10 minutes.
Aaron, you have to unmute yourself. Unmute yourself, Aaron. Unmute yourself, my friend. Oh, there you are. Okay. Aaron, are you there?
Can you hear me?
Yes, now we can. Yes.
Okay, very good. So when I was a kid, when I was a kid growing up in Jerusalem, I believed in God. I believed in the Bible. And when I got to high school, we actually had Bible class in high school. And during those Bible classes, my Bible teacher said something that really infuriated me. She told us in class that the Bible is a fairy tale. It's a mythology. It never happened. Moses never existed. Joshua never existed. The Israelites were never in Egypt. There was never an Exodus. And there was never a conquest. There was never an invasion. And that all the stories that we grew up believing in the Bible were not true. And that really, really, really made me angry. And thanks to great scholars that I'm going to talk about and this amazing discovery, this whole concept is starting to change. And the reason why my teacher told me that when I was in high school is because at that time, the evidence for the historicity of the Bible was not as strong as it is today. So I'm going to share with you one of those places that really bring the truth of the Bible forth. So let's start. We all know about the ceremony of the blessings and the curses that's mentioned in the Bible. This is a very important ceremony. It's so important that it's mentioned twice in the book of Deuteronomy.
199 people.
The first place where the ceremony is mentioned first is in Deuteronomy 11. When the Lord your God has brought you into the land you are entering to possess, you are to proclaim on Mount Gerizim the blessings and on Mount Ebal the curses. Now, How do we know where these places are today? Very simple. The Bible gives us a very specific GPS pinpoint description of where these mountains are. As you know, these mountains are across the Jordan, westward toward the setting sun, near the great trees of Moreh, in the territory of those Canaanites living in the Arabah, in the vicinity of Gilgal. So this is very interesting. The Bible makes it a point to explain exactly where Mount Gerizim, the mountain of blessing, and Mount Ebal are. So let's see exactly where that is. Here we have a map of Israel. And what we're going to do now is we're going to zoom in into Samaria, Judea and Samaria, the biblical heartland of Israel. Um, So we're zooming in into Judea and Samaria. Judea and Samaria are the area where most of the biblical stories happen. This is the central mountain ridge where Hebron, Jerusalem, Shiloh, Bethel, and Nablus or Shechem are. And Shechem, the valley of Shechem, and the Arab city of Nablus today are situated between those two mountains, Mount Ebal on the right and Mount Gerizim on the left. Obviously, we can't see this in 3 dimensions from the Google map. So my wife, who I love and cherish, bought me a present for my 40th birthday, a drone. And so what we're going to do now is we're going to fly over the valley of Shechem, Nablus. On the right side, we have Mount Ebal, and on the left side, Mount Gerizim. We can see the slopes going into the valley of Shechem. Now, again, I want you to look at this and understand the Bible is true. The stories that happened there really happened. And the places that are described in the Bible are real places. And what you're looking at right now is what Moses in the book of Deuteronomy chapter 11 referred to. And this is this is 100%. This is not something that anyone can speculate about. This is true. This is what Moses speaks about. Let's go to the second place where this ceremony is mentioned. Again, in the book of Deuteronomy, repeating the commandment to do this ceremony shows how important this ceremony is. And when you have crossed the Jordan, set up these stones on Mount Ebal, as I command you today, and coat them with plaster. Build there an altar to the Lord your God, an altar of stones. Do not use any iron tool on them. Build the altar of the Lord your God with field stones, and offer burnt offerings on it to the Lord your God. Look at this. This is a specific commandment saying, do the ceremony, but build the altar on which mountain? Not on the mountain of blessing, but on the mountain of curse, Mount Ebal. And what do you do to that altar? It's made out of field stones that are not cut by iron. And you need to plaster them and write the Torah, right? The words of the law on the altar. And so remember this is important. And then Joshua enters the land of Israel with the Israelites. And as Moses' servant, he does exactly what Moses commands. Then Joshua built on Mount Ebal an altar to the Lord, the God of Israel, as Moses, the servant of the Lord, had commanded the Israelites. He built it according to what it is written in the book of the law of Moses, an altar of uncut stones on which no iron tool had been
Honey,
used.
it's a lesson and video.
And so you can see all the attributes, an altar on Mount Ebal made of uncut stones and plastered. So because of this important ceremony, many archaeologists in the end of the 19th century and the beginning of the 20th century tried to go and look for that altar, but they couldn't find it. They looked for the altar on the southern slopes of Mount Ebal, those slopes that you saw on the aerial video that I just showed. They couldn't find it. And so what happens is, during the 1960s, you have a group of archaeologists that are non-believers And they are saying, of course you didn't find the altar on Mount Ebal because the story never happened. As we said, Joshua never existed, Moses never existed. Here we can see the academic view of ancient Israel according to the academic world. It is hard to accept, but scholars today are convinced that Israel was not present in Egypt, nor wandered in Sinai. They did not conquer Canaan, nor inherited to the 12 tribes. And the Israelite religion did not adopt monotheism on Mount Sinai, but in the end of the monarchical period. This is what has been taught in schools, in colleges, in universities, all over the world, that the Bible never happened. And so this was the situation until a very dear person, a professor of archaeology by the name of Adam Zertal, a non-believer, a socialist from Kibbutz Ein Shemel, who decided in the 1970s to start a survey of Samaria, of the tribal land of Manasseh. And he starts surveying Mount Ebal, not looking for the altar, and surveying areas that were not researched in the past. And guess what he finds? First of all, he comes to a compound that has a very peculiar shape that doesn't fit the geography. It has a special, it's sort of made out like a footprint, okay? I cannot give you more information about that, but it's one of 6 that were found in the land of Israel that were built by the Israelites. But at that time, he just comes into a compound that he doesn't know how to explain. The compound is divided into a couple of areas, and in the highest point of that compound, there is a very interesting thing. So here's an aerial of the compound, and you can see one of our groups standing inside that compound. And further on in the compound is a place with an interesting structure right here that at the time looked like this. Now what we see here is the first day of the dig, of the excavation, 1982, a big rubble of stone. And in this rubble of stone are a lot of pottery shreds that are identified with the Israelites. And after this period of excavation, they basically peel off the exterior layer of stone. And what they find is an amazing and unexplainable structure. Again, thanks to my dear wife who bought me the drone, we can see a beautiful aerial of this structure. And Professor Adam Zertal doesn't know how to explain it. He goes to parallels in Egypt, in Syria. He's trying to find structures that are similar to this mysterious structure. And he cannot find any parallel. He cannot describe, he cannot explain what this is. And again, Adam Zertal was educated to believe that there is no altar on Mount Ebal because Joshua never existed. Moses never existed. This story should not have happened at all. So Adam Zertal is sitting in the dining hall of the place where they were sleeping during the time of the excavations, and he is sketching the structure that he believed he found. Suddenly, an Orthodox Jew walks by and says to Adam Zertal, "Is this the structure you found?" And Adam Zertal, "Yes, this is what I found on Mount Ebal. I don't know how to explain it. A rectangular platform with a ramp going up, a secondary ramp going around the altar. The structure is made out of field stones. I don't understand what it is." The Orthodox Jew suddenly gets excited, runs away from the dining hall, and comes back with a book. The book is called the Mishnah. It's the oral rabbinical traditions of the Jewish rabbis from the Second Temple period. And he opens the book and he shows Adam Zertal a picture of the altar in the Second Temple period. Both of them are looking at this picture and they're amazed. They see a rectangular shaped structure with a ramp and a secondary ramp. This is the altar of the second temple. And it's very similar to the structure that Adam Zertal found. Adam Zertal looks at this Jew and he says, you understand what this means? This means that this is Joshua's altar. There's no other explanation. And if this is Joshua's altar, then Joshua existed and Moses existed and the Exodus happened. And the Jew looks at Adam Zertal, the Orthodox Jew, and says, of course, what do you mean? So this discovery changed Adam Zertal's view totally, 180 degrees, from a person who believed that the Bible was a mythology to a person who acknowledged that the Bible is true. And when Adam Zertal spoke to our Christian groups coming to Israel, I always presented him as the born-again archaeologist, because he was truly born again because of this discovery. So I would like to end this short lecture and try to connect this story to Tabernacles, to Sukkot. The footprint structure that you saw and the altar were in use not for one day. According to the archaeology, this structure was used for 70 years. This was the main worshiping site of the Israelites early back during the time of the settlement, before it was abandoned, decommissioned, covered by stone, and the central place moved to Shiloh. And so we can imagine, when we visit there, we can imagine the Israelites coming there every year with their family, with the 4 species, and going around the footprint structure, just like today Jews go around the platform in synagogue with the 4 species and are saying Hoshana, Hoshana. And so this is really exciting. So I'm going to just say, if you want to learn more about Joshua's altar, you can visit thealtarofjoshua.com. If you want to invite me to speak at your church about Adam Zertal's discoveries, not just the altar of Joshua, but also the footprint structures and other sites, you can visit wewantaron.com. And you can find my Bible teachings and books about these discoveries that prove the historicity of the Bible in hiddenisrael.net. I'll be posting all of these links in the chat window of this Zoom program. Thank you all, and Chag Sameach from Israel.
Thank you, Aaron. That was awesome. How awesome was that? That's really, like, I've lived in Israel and I've been all over the country. I haven't been to the altar of Joshua. And it gives such a different meaning. Pastor Mark, we were just talking about Nehemiah, where it says that when they came back, they didn't celebrate Passover, Sukkot, for hundreds of years. Since when? Since the time of Joshua. So not only was that altar, there must have been an incredible Sukkot celebration happening there, because it was the greatest one in hundreds and hundreds of years.
Is Mount Ebal open for tours? Is it safe?
Yes, actually, it's safe, and we're the only travel agency that brings these groups to this site.